This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between Jeremy Scott and the son he'd never known.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
What is up? Good afternoon, 3:01 on a Wednesday afternoon, and I am Dave Sinykin, sitting in the big chair today as Dan continues to enjoy his week away. If he had known how meaty this week was going to be, maybe he would have petitioned spring break to be moved to another week. First, I'm here Monday after the big brawl. Now I get to sit in the chair to relive what was maybe the most riveting, astonishing regular season basketball game in Minnesota Timberwolves history. I know Brett Blakemore was watching, at least until his droopy eyes could no longer support himself.
Confirm.
How you doing? Good to see you.
I'm doing well. Happy to be back with you. And happy the Instagram video that I saw earlier today. More on that possibly in the top 5 at 5.
You can't help yourself.
No, I can't.
You just can't help yourself. Relax. This is it. After today, Justin Gard back hosting this program. He'll be down in San Antonio getting set for the Final Four. So I'm sure he's pumped and excited for what should be a fantastic Saturday of basketball with 4 powerhouse teams. That's him. Tomorrow and Friday, he'll be doing this thing. You got me today. It's a 3-hour ride, and I'm really excited because there's just so much to dive into, and we have a cavalcade of guests on this afternoon's program as well. As you might imagine, if you know anything about me, and in light of what we saw last night, it's going to be pretty bucket heavy today. But we won't start out that way. Bottom of the hour, 3:30, 3:35 or so, Kevin Seifert joins, fresh off. I'm guessing he's back from Palm Beach, but he's been covering the owners' meetings. We'll discuss the rule changes that passed, those that were tabled. He wrote a story today on the Aaron Rodgers saga. We'll dive into that just a bit. I know you're tired of it, but he's got a fresh perspective. So Kevin Seifert, before we dive into hoops too heavily at 3:35. Top of the hour, an hour from now, Jace Frederick covers the Wolves for the Pioneer Press. We will relive last night's game with Jace at 4 o'clock and what the last 6 games look like and the positioning the Wolves have put themselves in for the playoff or play-in. At 5:35, Double T joins for a little midweek in the zone. He is he's near Detroit. I know he's in the Detroit area with his family. I don't remember. I remember it's both of his boys or just one of his sons are in a big national hockey tournament all week long. And he'll check in with us for a moment to chat about what we saw last night and some other amazing stuff from the NBA last night. And then hopefully also in the 5 o'clock hour, Alan Horton, Wolves' voice. He still has a voice. He's landing in Brooklyn or in New York. In like the 4 o'clock hour, hopes to be at his hotel by around 5. So hopefully he will check in with us as well. I want to hear how he dealt with and is thinking about the Wolves after last night's game, which was just beyond remarkable for a basketball game. And it's just when there's 82 of these things and you know you're going to get a bunch of duds, but you figured last night we were going to be in for something because, you know, Denver's Mike Malone, head coach, had been talking leading up to the game, you know, that it's not really a rivalry right now because the Wolves have beaten him 5 straight times. He sort of challenged his players. Like, this game meant a lot to Denver, even though they're, I think, pretty locked into their playoff positioning. And we found out, you know, shortly before tip-off that 2 of their starters would be missing. No Jamal Murray and no Porter. Michael J. Porter was out as well, which seemed to balance the fact that Naz and Dante were suspended for this game. That's 2 starters against 2 bench guys, but I'd say both were losing 2 of their 5 or 6 most important players, I would say. That's fair to say. But this game meant a lot to Denver, and obviously we know it meant a lot for the Wolves, who have given themselves, no margin for error if they want to try to climb into that 6th spot. And this looked like the toughest game left on the slate. And it started out just like so many Wolves games. It was like 19-3. The Denver Nuggets had the early lead, and it looked like it was going to be one of those nights where Denver came out with fire in their eyes and just were not going to be denied. But, they fight back a little. They punch back here and there, and what do you know? We end up going 2 overtimes. Let's start with the A topic. Nikola Jokic, absurd night, career high 61, triple-double. I'm going to go back to the end of the third quarter where the Wolves had a 5-point lead heading into the fourth quarter. And I said to myself, because I do talk to myself because my wife's sound asleep next to me and she wouldn't know a Nikola Jokic from a Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I said to myself, well, all right, 5-point lead, and now Jokic sits because he played the whole third quarter, just like Ant typically does. So maybe we can extend that lead while Jokic takes a breather. They come out to the fourth quarter, Jokic steps on the court. He's not taking a breather. And Denver goes on an instant 10-0 run. And just like that, it's a 5-point deficit, and now you're thinking, well, that's it, right? But the Wolves fight back, and it goes to overtime, and now Gobert's done for the night. He's fouled out. Same thing. You have, you're pretty thinking, well, without Gobert, what are we going to do? And meanwhile, Jokic doesn't sit. He doesn't sit in either overtime or the whole second half. The dude played the last 34 minutes of action without sitting. And he looked just as fresh at the end of that double overtime as he did to start the third quarter. It seemed like he had not slowed down a bit. I'm going to talk to Double T about this when we chat at 5:35. What we're seeing from this guy is something we've really never seen from a player. His unique set of skills are something that we just don't see from a big man, right? Almost unstoppable offensively. And if you double him, he's going to find somebody, most likely without even looking, to set them up for a shot. He's just a tremendous basketball player. And the fact that he throws up the highest point scoring night in the NBA this season, a career high, and he still couldn't beat the Timberwolves, feels kind of nice, doesn't it? The Wolves are down 8 with 5 minutes to go. It looked like they were dead. Then they're up 6 late in the first overtime, and you figured, well, that's it. We got this. No. I know you're all, I think, Rosie, we were chatting as we were making the tag team here and Chuck for a second. I know he got into this, just the inability of the Timberwolves to execute a final play when the game is either tied or they're down 1. When they need a game-winning play, that has been a storyline all season. Their inability to not just execute a play, it feels like just even craft a play. It feels like it's always the same thing, right? Somehow the ball gets in Ant's hands, dribble, 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 dribble. Now he attacks, now they double, and either he tries to force something where we've seen turnovers, or he tries to find someone else, as he did last night, hitting Randall for a shot at the end of the first overtime, and then maybe that was the end of regulation. I think it was McDaniels at the end of the first overtime. And then at the very end of the game-winning play, he makes a great decision, firing it off to Na in the corner, and we all know what happened. Na fires up the 3. Russell Westbrook fouls him. The game looked over, right? When final 18 seconds, Ant throws the ball away, down by 1. Russell Westbrook goes on a 2-on-1 fast break. And Candace Parker talked about this in the postgame. Like, you just dribble out. You get fouled. You don't go up and score. Because even if you score, you're up 3 and you're giving the Wolves a chance. We all know what happened. Russ didn't score. Conley gets back, makes it a little bit more difficult. Russ misses the layup. Na gets the rebound. Here we go. And Ant hits Alexander Walker in the corner, and he gets fouled, knocks down the 2 free throws, misses the third with 1/10 of a second left, and the Wolves get the miraculous win. And what a night for Nickeil Alexander Walker. That might be the game that cost him his Wolves career. Nationally televised game, every GM's watching, going, all right, look at that guy on a night where he's the only bench player in uniform that the Wolves have counted on this season, really, right? With Naz and Dante out. Naz the guy, when The Wolves got off to a slow start. The starters just couldn't get things going. Here comes Nickeil Alexander-Walker to sort of ignite things. He had a remarkable night. In fact, he had a historic night. I think Johnny Athletic tweeted this morning. He's the first player in history, in NBA history, to come off the bench and score 25 plus, shoot 50% or better, make 5 or more threes, 5 or more rebounds, 5 or more assists, and 2 or more blocks. So I don't know how you find that so quickly, how anybody finds that so quickly, but no one's ever done that. No one's ever had a stat line like that off the bench, and it was the ideal night because the Wolves needed that boost off the bench, and I don't want to lose sight of the fact that the bench really won this game for this team. It kept them in this game when it looked like it was going to get away. And even, Josh Minott and Rob Dillingham didn't get a ton of minutes, but they really impacted the game. Minott was a plus 14 in the 12 minutes he played. 10 points, 4 rebounds, hit a couple big threes in the corner. And Dillingham probably had the play of the night when he picked Jokic's pocket and then takes it down and slams it. He had a couple nice defensive plays, and that's so encouraging because that was the big knock when they drafted him. He's undersized, doesn't have a lot of experience. He's going to get knocked around, and can he defend bigger players? And he's really, maybe it's because of the defensive guys around him in practice, see how those guys go about it. But he's suddenly become a guy that's not a problem defensively. And again, he didn't get a lot of minutes last night, but the ones he got were really important. So, big night for the Wolves. And then even today, depending on what aisle you seat of the aisle you're on, big news that Glenn Taylor has elected to end the fight. He's going to give it up. He's not going to appeal the arbitration hearing. He is going to hand over the keys, as the arbitration panel said he must, to Lorian Rodriguez. So that is done. That deal is official, and now it goes to the NBA owners to make the official vote to award the new owners the keys to the franchise. The Wolves and Lynx will be under the control of Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez. So a fight that started about a year ago when Glenn decided he didn't love the deal is over. And a $1.5 billion deal, which was made 4 years ago, the team is now valued at double that. Forbes now values the Wolves at $3.1 billion, which is incredible. But it's actually the third lowest value in the NBA, which surprised me a little bit. Only the Grizzlies and Pelicans are valued lower than the Wolves. And what surprised me was hearing that the most valuable franchise in the NBA, if I ask you the question, what NBA team is valued highest? You'd say Lakers, right? Lakers, Celtics, 1, 2, and then maybe I'd think about it for a minute. Golden State is the most valuable franchise, according to Forbes, valued at $8.8 billion. And I'd love to know, there must be reasoning. Maybe they own the building or they own land or something around it. It just seems hard to believe that the Warriors are worth more than the Lakers, but found that interesting. So I'd say, two really good things have happened for the Wolves franchise. An incredible, improbable, scintillating double overtime win in Denver, which keeps them right in the mix. And we're suddenly not just watching Denver and the Clippers. The Grizzlies are now down to a tie for 6 with the Wolves. They have the tiebreaker, but they're kind of in free fall right now. We got to go to Memphis next week. The play-in right now, the Wolves will be 7. But it looks like the way they're playing and the schedule that they have in front of them, every opportunity to escape the 7 seed. And how would we like a 3-6 Denver Timberwolves first round? I think we would all sign up for that. That would be electric. I'm pretty sure the networks would sign up for that. It was fun watching the post-game show on TNT. They were just jaws on the ground. Like, what did we just watch? I mean, starting with Jokic, but that even not being enough to hold off a Timberwolves team that just did not give up. And Ant, after a tough night where things really weren't going his way and they were making it really hard every time he touched the ball, scored 24 points over a 16-minute part of the game, fourth quarter and overtime, and those back-to-back threes were just electrifying and woke up the Wolves. If you watch that game like I did and stayed up for it, it was kind of hard to fall asleep right away. You're kind of wired at that point. Just a remarkable night for the Minnesota Timberwolves. All right, let's pause. Much more on that game ad nauseum today. Can't get enough of it. Twins are in a rain delay in Chicago, but they got their first win last night. We will chat about that. Lots of NFL stuff today over the program, and I said we're stocked full of guests. So hope you'll hang with us. We're here till 6. It's Bumper to Bumper with Barreiro. Dave Sinykin in for Dan today, and we're back.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, is he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
Right after the
Fan. Join Meat Sauce and Nordo for a live broadcast of Saturdays with Sauce at the Twin Cities Auto Show Saturday, April 19th. Drop by the iHeart Zone from noon to 2 to catch the show, meet the guys, and snag your KFAN gear. Full details now, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
All right, we're back 3:20 on a, well, it looks like the snow has stopped here in St. Louis Park. When I left my house, West Metro, about 2:20, it was snowing hard, like big flakes coming down, like enough to the point where I just snapped a quick video to show my kids. So one of those wish you were here videos, but it looks like it's stopped at this point. Bottom of the hour, next segment, Kevin Seifert joins on what he witnessed at the NFL owners meetings. We'll go through the rules changes that were approved and were tabled, among other things. Seifert in the next segment. We're with you till 6, as I mentioned, leading you right into wild hockey, which allows me to ask Mr. Blakemore about his favorite squad, which is coming off back-to-back losses to the Devils, the last one in shootout fashion. What are we expecting tonight against Mark Messier and the Rangers?
Yeah, it's been a while for him. I hope just a good effort, honestly, and the points with the Blues hot on our tails. They're right with us. Obviously, making the playoffs shouldn't be too bad, but it's still the effort level just needs to be there consistently over the course of the game. Gustafsson is in net for the Wild, the fan has learned. And then also Kaprizov, apparently, according to Russo a couple hours ago, had a positive checkup with his surgeon. Will go into the next phase of his comeback, which is contact. So we're almost there. Hopefully, one of these days he'll come back.
Time is running out at this point.
And I think Russo said on air, if it was up to him, he'd be playing. He did say that. Ago.
Yeah. He's itching to play. I'm sure Eriksson Ek is as well, especially when the team is struggling. And you know that even if you're not 100%, your presence out there is going to make a difference. All those cliches, just having me in uniform is going to get everybody fired up. All right, so that's at 6 o'clock. They will drop the puck shortly after 6. We'll take you right up to the 6 o'clock hour. I mentioned Twins have not yet gotten started down in Chicago. They've been in a rain delay for a couple of hours now. I haven't heard anything about a cancellation. It's still listed as a rain delay, so they have yet to get started. Finally got off the schneid last night with an 8-3 win, including a 5-run 6th inning, all with 2 outs. They made things happen. Harrison Bader goes deep late, and the Bats finally awakened from their slumber, which has, again, it's 3 games, and you go, there's a long season, and you can't get too freaked out about a really ugly opening series. But when you're looking at, Carlos Correa still waiting for his first base hit through 4 games, when you see Buxton batting 118 and Wallner 154, Big signing, Ty France at 167. The bats have not quite awakened, but seeing a big inning, a rally, a 2-out rally happen, maybe that carries over. I'm sure they were itching to get back out there today, but they have to wait. Still in a rain delay, top of the first inning in Chicago. Welcome your texts throughout the program, as always. The Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line always open and available. There is some bitterness among Wolves fans about what they're expecting tomorrow night in Brooklyn. You know, and in a way I understand it. In fact, talking to my son Jackson earlier today, he said the same things. Like, Dad, there's no way they're winning in Brooklyn Thursday, right? This is what happens after an emotional, harrowing, expend all your energy evenings. They're probably going to come out flat in Brooklyn. Well, let's see. Part of me says Brooklyn would just as soon lose at this point because they're out of the playoffs and they're best served by getting as high a draft pick. That said, they've won their last 2 games. They won against Dallas and Washington, two teams that aren't playing so great, but clearly they haven't quit. So this will be a good test. Again, there's only 6 games left, and they're just embarking on a 5-game road trip. Round 1 went very well, as we know. And you look at the teams they're going to play, the Nets, the Sixers, and the Bucks and the Grizzlies, they're probably going to be favored in all of those games. Maybe not Memphis, but Memphis has dropped 4 in a row. They fired their coach. They're kind of in free fall. They have the same record as the Wolves now after being up at the 2-3 spot in the West for quite a bit of the year. But these next 2, Nets and Sixers, you absolutely have to take care of. I mean, the opponents' winning percentage for the Wolves the rest of the year is just 38%. They have by far the most favorable schedule remaining among what we thought were 2 other teams that we're kind of fighting with. Really 3 now. It's the Warriors, the Grizzlies, and the LA Clippers. Speaking of those Warriors, did you see Steph's night last night? 52 points for Steph.
It's not a bad night at the office.
12 threes. And I'd forgotten this. The last time Golden State played in Memphis back in December, Curry didn't make a shot. I forget now if it was the only time that's happened in his career, but I'm guessing he remembered because he had 32 in the first half last night en route to a Warriors win over the Grizzlies. The other funky game last night, I don't know if you saw this, the Milwaukee Bucks shot 69% for the game. It's the highest field goal percentage for a team in the last 27 years. I caught the last half of the fourth quarter getting ready for Wolves game, and it was still a ball game. Like, despite shooting 70%, they needed all 48 minutes to close out Phoenix, which is playing without Kevin Durant. Bucks are toast. So, again, that road game probably sounds meatier than it is. Without Damian Lillard, the Bucks just, yes, you have to deal with Giannis, but again, it's not as daunting as it might have looked on the schedule a couple weeks ago. Bucks are kind of in free fall mode. They're down to the 6th spot in the East, but it's very favorable down the stretch. But you have to win these games that you should win, and we know throughout the season they've lost to some really bad teams this year, and you don't know what a game like last night does to the team. We talk about the cliche about the thin air in Denver. The high elevation makes it difficult as it is. I didn't hear or see anybody seem to be getting oxygen on the bench. Again, Jokic played the last 34 minutes and played, well, at least, when did he come back in? Early, I think 8 minutes to go in regulation, then both overtimes. That had to take something out of him. I know Julius Randle after the game sounded like he was as tired and spent as he's ever been. A lot of his energy was spent trying to slow down Jokic last night to the best of his ability once Gobert fouled out, which meant both overtimes. And I didn't even mention Julius Randle in the first segment. It's almost like you start to take him for granted just a little bit. But he was fantastic last night. He really was. Really both ends of the court. And Wolves fans sort of got their opinion about him after the trade and were very slow to move off of it, especially as ugly as things started. And then he was out for quite a while. But we've watched the march games where the Wolves had the third best record in the league and were really led by Julius Randle. He's really come into his own, has felt comfortable, kind of figured out how to play with his teammates. And he was really good last night. Again, both ends of the court, which is not something you always say with Julius Randle. But yeah, a lot of negativity from Wolves fans in the text line here about tomorrow night. Also, I enjoyed this text from Mike from Chaska. Dave, my wife fell asleep during the first overtime, but my bouncing in bed when Nah got fouled woke her up, and we watched him nail the free throws. Thanks, Mike in Chaska. I think I was remarkably subdued, but I tend to be that way. Sometimes my wife checks, like puts a little mirror up to my mouth to see if I'm alive, even when I'm conscious. I'm pretty low-key. I'm pretty laid back. So, I mean, I did make a few noises, and I looked, but I didn't wake her. She was right there, sound asleep. But I'm sure Mike in Chaska isn't the only guy who woke up his significant other watching that game down the stretch. It just looked like they threw it away. You know, you're down one. Ant's got the ball, 18 seconds left. And here comes a fast break for Denver, and we're going to come up short. And then just remarkably, you get the foul call at the end of the game. And not the right guy to be at the line because he was spectacular last night. All right, we will spend much more time on this game. Jace Frederick at the top of the hour. Hopefully Alan Horton, double T at 5:35. But let's switch gears. Let's talk some NFL. Owners' meetings, I think, have come to a close. Kevin Seifert's been all over them, documenting the rules changes, a couple significant ones, a couple that they put aside. So we'll catch up on what he witnessed the last few days in Palm Beach. NFL on tap. Bumper to Bumper with Barreiro rolls on after.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
I just knew him as a kid.
Long, silent voices from his past came forward.
And he was just staring at me.
And they had secrets of their own to share.
Gilbert King. I'm the son of Jeremy Lynn Scott.
I was no longer just telling the story. I was part of it.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between a killer and the son he'd never known.
If the cops and everything would have done their job properly, my dad would have been in jail. I would have never existed.
I never expected to find myself in this place. Now, I need to tell you how I got here.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Bone Valley, Season 2. Jeremy.
Jeremy, I want to tell you something.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And to hear the entire new season ad-free with exclusive content starting April 9th, subscribe to Lava for Good Plus on Apple Podcasts.
Join Muss and Miller Lite at Jimmy's in Vadnais Heights this Thursday from 5 to 7. Stop by for your final chance to win a spot in the Vikings Foundation Golf Tournament and a load up on sweet and Miller Lite golf gear. Full details now, KFAN.com, keyword golf.
We are back, 3:36 on a Wednesday afternoon. Dave Sinykin in for Dan today. And very pleased to welcome a Barreiro regular, Kevin Seifert, to the program at 3:35 on a Wednesday. Kevin, how we doing? Are we back in the Twin Cities in this lovely weather?
85 and humid to snow in a matter of hours, but this is where we live. We love it here.
Yeah, we never know what's coming next. That's the beauty of it. Welcome home. Glad you made it back safely. Thanks for giving us some time. Let's catch up on what you witnessed and some of the headlines coming out of Palm Beach after the owners' meetings. The one that got the most air, obviously, was the tush push and what would happen with that. They've tabled it. Apparently, it got 16 votes to say bye-bye. Where are we with this? And when they reconvene, I guess, in May, what are the chances this comes back up and something actually happens?
Yeah, it's going to come back up. And interestingly, the May meeting is right here in Minnesota at the Omni Hotel next to the Vikings facility. So the tush-push could potentially go down there right then and there. There are a lot of people in the NFL who want that play to go away. The proposal that your Packers put out to ban it was very specifically targeted at the Eagles play and basically said you couldn't push a player at the line of scrimmage immediately after he takes a snap. And there were some people in the NFL, enough people in the NFL, teams also in the league office, who said you can't start making rules just to specifically target one particular play that nobody can stop. Like, that's not the way the rules are supposed to be used. It needs to have some kind of broader implication. And so the way they left it was basically to start looking to see if they can restore a rule that used to be on the books that you can't push or pull any ball carrier anywhere on the field at any time. So that would include the tush push, but it would also include times when we see offensive linemen like run down the field and push the pile, or even like a tight end or a receiver trying to push the pile. That had been taken out of the rule book because it was difficult for officials to officiate, because is he pushing, or is he just blocking, or is he just clumsy, or like what's the deep line of demarcation? But long story short, they're kind of searching for a different semantic way of getting that play out of the game. You can argue about whether it's justified or whether it should happen, or if there's other reasons that they should be considering, but it does look like they're really working hard to try to find a way to get it banned.
I think I speak for everybody. Don't we all love to watch when the offensive linemen are helping the running back and the thing just moves like a small crowd is sort of all moving in unison down the field? I'd hate to see that go away, but I guess I understand why they might go that route. Where are you? Where do you land on this? Do you agree with the Packers throwing this out there and the 16 teams that seem to be in favor, or do you feel like, hey, it's a football play, just stop it?
Well, part of me thinks it's just incredibly petty because in a response to the fact that nobody can figure out how to stop it. There are some elements, like I'm not a great rugby mind, but there are some elements to the play that make it look more like rugby than football. But like, I don't know that we're like painting a Picasso picture here that has to be perfectly aligned with the values and morals of football and not rugby or whatever. And I don't know if the mechanics are much different, other than the push part. I don't know that the mechanics are much different than a quarterback sneak. There is no injury. The NFL injury data shows no evidence that it's ever caused an injury. I guess the NFL's chief medical officer stood in the meeting and told owners that the mechanics of it could lead to an injury, and if it did, it would be a catastrophic kind of neck break for either an lineman who's got his head down and trying to move forward, or even the quarterback in theory. And so there's that concern, but there's no evidence it's ever happened, and there aren't that many teams other than the Eagles and the Bills who do it. But so I've kind of viewed it that way, but I also think that we've kind of reached a point where if they don't ban it, we're going to be seeing some extreme things in response. And we saw a glimpse of that in the NFC Championship game. If you remember, Washington had a guy basically trying to time the snap and kept jumping over the line of scrimmage and getting penalties on the goal line, which are basically, it doesn't matter if you get a penalty on the goal line because there's no more room to move the ball forward. And so eventually the referee, Sean Hockley, threatened to just give the Eagles a touchdown anyway if Washington didn't stop it. And that would certainly not be football. That is not what you want to see happen in any game, let alone the game that decides who gets into the Super Bowl. And so I think that while it would be much preferable if defenses figured out a way to stop it and the Eagles had to stop using it because it was no longer effective. But if the response is going to rise to the level of creating like an out of hand scene, as it did in that NFC Championship game, then maybe they need to get it out of the game.
All right, let's talk about a couple rules that have been changed that were voted on, beginning with overtime. Talk about what the owners decided to do and how that might change football as we see it going forward. Yeah, so basically a few years ago, if you remember, they changed overtime in the playoffs to allow each team to have the opportunity to have a possession, and it wouldn't just be sudden death, even if the team that gets the first possession scores a touchdown. But that only counted for playoff games, and that was a response to that Chiefs-Bills game a few years ago where the Chiefs took the ball down the field and scored a touchdown, and the Bills never had a chance to get their offense on the field at all. And they made it 15 minutes to allow for the extra time that two possessions would take. And so this past year, I think like 75% of the teams that got the first possession in the regular season, where it was still, the game would be over if the first possession resulted in a touchdown. Right. Those first possession teams won like 75% of the time. And so there was a movement that was successful to get the regular season rules aligned with the playoffs and guarantee each team a possession before overtime would be complete. However, they did not extend the amount of time, so it's still 10 minutes. And so in theory, the second possession team could get the ball with not a whole lot of time left. And if somehow the first possession team holds the ball for the entire 10 minutes of overtime, which doesn't happen very much, but could if the defense is really tired by that point and scores on the very last play of overtime, the game's over and the team didn't get the second team didn't get a possession. So it'll provide more fair outcomes. It could make overtime pretty interesting strategy where you have one team basically trying to go slow and one team in their only possession might be in a 2-minute drill. And so that's what happened there. And I would assume now if you get to overtime, you're always going to want the ball first, right? Because you're going to want a chance at the third possession if both teams score. Yeah, I mean, but with the 10 minutes, though, you may not have time. There may not be time for that. You have to assume that possibility. Why is it just, 15 minutes, more chance for injury, too much football? I think we've all watched overtime games over the last few years at 10 minutes thinking, man, that's going fast. Like, why not just make it a full 15-minute quarter? Is it all about players' health and safety? I think that's certainly the stated reason that, especially in a regular season game, the data on how teams that play a full overtime, almost 5 full quarters, fair in their following game, is not great. You're not playing on a short week, but you're playing on a shorter week, I guess, than your opponent who didn't play in overtime the previous week. So that is to be accounted for. And there's also, and I don't know if anyone comes out and says this, but there's also the idea that you want to keep NFL games as close to 3 hours as you can for the TV, schedules and keeping that going. Oh, sure. If you have a full 15-minute overtime, are you going to the next game of the doubleheader at in the second quarter? That wouldn't be ideal either. And so, there's a time of game element to it and also a health and safety element to it. Talking with Kevin Seifert, you read his stuff at ESPN.com, covering the Vikes, covering NFL rules stuff and other NFL matters. Another rule that got instituted, I think has flown a bit under the radar, is that the chain gang is going to be a secondary backup way to measure first downs. And we're going to finally use technology to determine whether we have first downs. I'm curious about how overwhelming that was passed, and is that something they're going to use on the goal line as well? Yeah, they actually, and there's been some weird reporting on it, but they actually had already announced that they were going to use that, and they tested it all last year. The UFL uses it as well. And just to be clear, they're going to use these 4K cameras once the ball is spotted to determine, if they need to measure whether it's a first down. So the times when they used to bring out the chain gang to measure, instead they'll just use those cameras, and there'll be sort of an animation that you can see, kind of like
and it's the same Hawkeye technology that you see in tennis. So if you're ever watching a tennis match on TV and they show you whether the ball was in or out, it's the same kind of deal there. So I don't know how many times that actually comes up in a game, a couple of times when you need to measure.
Yeah.
And so the goal line, I do not think they will not use it at the goal line or forever for just spotting the ball in general, because it doesn't just matter where the ball is. It matters where the ball is when the runner is down or his forward progress is over. And so the cameras can't capture that. There's no laser that can capture that or GPS that can capture that yet. That's obviously the holy grail at some point, is that you take that subjective judgment from the officials away of having to try to triangulate / guess where the ball is at the moment the knee touches the ground and that sort of thing, and replace it with technology. But they're not close to that yet. But so what we'll see, and if you watch a UFL game this spring, you can see them use that as well. They call it True Line, but basically in the handful of occasions each game where a measurement from the chain gang would have been needed, they'll use the cameras instead. The chain gang will still be there for backup just in case. You never know about technology. But they won't use it unless the technology goes down.
Got it. All right. One more rule change that I'm aware of, and if I've missed any, please enlighten us. Expanded replay assist. They are going to head upstairs for more than just what we typically have grown accustomed to. I think for a lot of us, you weigh slowing the game down to turning around obvious calls that they miss. So can you explain to what degree we are now expanding replay assist?
Yeah, so the replay assist program is kind of cool because it doesn't really slow the game down. It's only supposed to be used in the cases where, like, in the first glance at a review, and the replay official in the stadium has all the angles immediately and can toggle through them. The first glance, like if you're watching the game on TV, the first time they show that replay and you see, no, there was a face mask penalty called. No, he actually didn't touch the face mask. The replay official can call down to the referee, say he didn't touch the face mask, pick up the flag. And so what happened is they added face masks and a few other penalties to the list of things that the replay official can do. And this is kind of the NFL's answer to a sky judge. Every year they kind of add a few things that the replay official can weigh in on, and whether it's a penalty or if the knee was down or the ball was out of bounds or hit the ground before it was caught. All those kind of things, if it's so obvious you can see it immediately and doesn't need a formal review, they can fix it in real time and move on, and there's really no delay in the game. What they can't do, however, is if they see obviously on the immediate replay that there should have been a face mask penalty called and it wasn't, they can't call down and tell them to throw the flag. And so the NFL will allow them to review some penalties but not add penalties, and that'll be a frustration for fans, but the NFL is just not. They just feel like that's taking the officiating off the field, and they don't want to do that. And so the only other rule that's come up that came up this spring that's important is that they moved the touchback on the kickoff to the 35-yard line from the 30. Last year they had it at the 30, and a lot of teams were very content to just kick it through the end zone, and the touchback rate was like 65%, and the return rate was like 33%, and those are not great numbers if you're a big kickoff return guy. However, at the 35-yard line, that makes it the field position that you give your opponent a little bit worse, and you have a much better chance from an analytics perspective of pinning a returner prior to the 35-yard line if you just kind of kick one of those short kicks and then cover it. And so that's what the NFL is hoping will happen, and they're projecting that the return rate could double from that 33% to 60 to anywhere to up to 75%. And we'll see if coaches actually react that much to a 5-yard difference. I have my doubts, but I'm sure it will bring the return rate up at least some from what it was last year.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch. We also learned that the massive success the league has enjoyed by putting games on Christmas Day has made that something we're going to get really used to the point where now we've added a third game, right? 2 Netflix, 1 Amazon, triple header on Christmas Day. The days of the NBA owning that holiday are long gone. That's not much of a surprise, is it?
No, and it's Christmas on a Thursday this year. I haven't looked quite far ahead, but I think that's part of the reason why Amazon will get their Thursday night, their Christmas game, is because it's on Thursday night. And so that will, the old Mark Cuban thing about pigs getting slaughtered or whatever. If the NFL puts their games on too many nights or too many holidays, has not yet come true.
Let's close with this. You have a story on ESPN.com today, co-authored with another gentleman whose name escapes me, on just where we are with Aaron Rodgers. I know listeners here are so tired about the Aaron Rodgers story, but it's interesting to me that the Rooneys have spoken up today, that they're feeling good about where they are with Rodgers. We know he was throwing with DK Metcalf, the new Steeler receiver, over the weekend. Just sort of in a thumbnail, where are we with Rodgers in Pittsburgh, and does it feel like it might be leaning in that direction finally?
The Steelers think so, but the only person who really said that was the owner, and the only person who would really be in position to put any public pressure on Aaron Rodgers would be the owner. So I took that with a grain of salt. Truth of the matter is that nobody in the media, nobody really with these teams has had a great grasp on what Aaron Rodgers is thinking and what his timetable was and when they could expect to get an answer from him. The Vikings gave him their answer. The Giants gave him their answer, and now it's down to the Steelers. And so, who are content to wait a little bit longer. And I think they do, just based on numbers, like if he's going to sign somewhere, it's probably going to be them. But he is also 41, going to be 42. So retirement isn't completely out of the question either. So, if he's going to sign anywhere, that's the likeliest spot. Is it likely that he signs there? I think people are just guessing if they, including the Steelers, if they state an opinion or project a fact on that. He's proved to be pretty mercurial and pretty willing to work on his own schedule, and that's his right. As long as there's jobs open to him, and he'll be the one to make that decision. And I wouldn't feel comfortable guessing what's going to happen until we hear it from him.
It's probably smart. All right, before we let you go, a texter asked me to ask you about the Lions requesting that defensive holding and illegal contact not automatically become a first down because they like to do it every other play. Was there any support for that beyond Detroit? Is that something that might rear its ugly head as the years go by?
No. That was one of the most blatantly self-serving rule proposals I've seen from a team in quite some time. It would be great for the Lions to not have an automatic first down every time they grab or tackle a receiver. It would be a lot easier for them to defend Justin Jefferson, and to their credit, they've won a lot of the games recently against the Vikings. I think, some people would probably suggest that with overly aggressive pass defense, and there's been a lot of penalties for it, and a lot of first downs, but the officials don't call it on every play. So you can probably get away with it already more than people probably think. And so I do not think that will come back in the era of the NFL calibrating all their rules towards the pass game. I don't see them making it easier for anybody to play pass defense, including the Lions.
All right, we'll let you unpack, shovel your front walk, put your feet up. You've earned it. Welcome home. Thanks for some time today, Kevin.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Kevin Seifert, read his stuff at ESPN.com. All right, program note. Next segment, Jace Frederick, Pioneer Press on Wolves Nuggets. It's a Wolves heavy hour because it turns out Alan Horton will be available to us at 4:30. Fresh off calling the game in Denver, he is landing in New York and getting set for Wolves Nets tomorrow night. He'll join us at 4:30. So a Wolves heavy hour. We'll break it up with Ode to a Dead Guy, 4:15, 4:20. But stay tuned. Jace Frederick on Wolves Nuggets. That's next on The Fan.
Something unexpected happened after Jeremy Scott confessed to killing Michelle Schofield in Bone Valley Season 1.
Every time I hear about my dad, it's, oh, he's a killer. He's just straight evil.
I was becoming the bridge between Jeremy Scott and the son he'd never known.
At the end of the day, I'm literally a son of a killer.
Listen to new episodes of Bone Valley Season 2 starting April 9th on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.